Welcome back, guys. I am very happy to be back in studio. First up, I'd like to say a Happy New Year to everyone in the Lexington community, everyone tuning in around the world, and in general, Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome back. This is Alex Himes with the Ruckus. Gonna start this new year off right and do what I do best, which is kind of cause a ruckus, I guess. Yesterday, we got the news about Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd, coach of the Milwaukee Bucks, was fired. After 3.5 seasons with the Bucks, an overall record of 139 and 152, yeah, sub 500, but still, he was let go. Now, Kidd came over in a weird trade scenario from the Brooklyn Nets about 3.5 years ago when this whole weird trading coaches thing started making and creeping its way into the NBA. Here we are now. Kidd gets fired in the middle of the season. He's 23 and 22 right now overall with this team. And somehow, it seems like it came out of the blue. I understand that there's been lots of drama with, the Bucks, the direction they want to go, and just not really reaching the expectations both fans and the players had on them themselves. But Kidd has been doing a great job. Kidd managed to mold Giannis Antetokounmpo, mold Chris Middleton, was molding Eric Bledsoe for this system, Thon Maker, Malcolm Brogdon. I mean, all these little things that people may have taken for granted during his time with the Bucks, he was really doing a great job. He made a guy that was a second-round pick into the Rookie of the Year, the first Rookie of the Year. Now, I'm going to credit Malcolm Brogdon for having the talent and whatnot to go with it, but really, Kidd is behind that. He's the face behind the scenes. Now, if these rumors are true from what we've heard, Giannis Antetokounmpo did his best and tried to make sure that Kidd kept his job. Ramona Shelbourne, thankfully, was able to report on this last night via Twitter and sent a bunch of messages out. And the first one read, Kidd stating, "I enjoyed my time in Milwaukee. There were no regrets. We took an organization that was in a bad place and shed light on it. They're still young and in the running of this race. Giannis is young and running in his new race as one of the best players in the world." And that's the truth. And the tweets go on to talk about how Giannis attempted to reach out to Kidd and actually let Kidd know he was being let go before they formally announced it, and then went on to say, "Coach, I will go out of my way. I will call the owners. I will call someone. Let me help you out. What can I do?" And Kidd, Kidd said, like any head coach would, "No, go with the flow. It's done. We're just moving on to the next era, and this is the next step." But I, for one, have to say I'm not happy. I'm not thrilled about the situation, especially noting that the people who are potentially in the running are Jeff Van Gundy, who I have much respect for. I have nothing but respect for Jeff Van Gundy. But they also are considering Rick Pitino. Yes, Rick Pitino, the old Louisville coach. Yeah, the guy that just got caught up in a big scandal. Yeah, they're thinking about him. Pitino's last run in the NBA didn't work out so well, considering he noted that Larry Bird wasn't coming through the door when he was coaching the Celtics. So why are they considering him now? Milwaukee's just a giant mess, and honestly, that's the way I view it right now. They have lots of talent. It's a mishmash pit of talent that they just need to figure out how to utilize right, and I feel like they didn't give Kidd enough time to direct these kids in the direction he was going with it. They were dealing with Jabari Parker, who has been sidelined with an injury this entire year, and I understand how fans want an immediate turnaround with their teams. They want to see these players do well. They want to see the team do well, but it takes time. As Philadelphia is known for quoting, "Trust the process." They should have trusted this one. And they invested it in the first place. Gave up a pick for him. Well, we're going to see how that works out. Hopefully Milwaukee figures it out, and I don't anticipate Jason Kidd being out of a job anytime soon. I think that he'll be back either doing sports reporting, commenting, or potentially in a front office somewhere very shortly. Next, guys, we're going to jump to probably my favorite topic I get to discuss today, because nothing brings me as much happiness as talking about LeBron having problems with the Cavaliers and the Cavaliers just not being good in general. So here we are. Out of their last 10 games, they've won 3. In those 10 games, 7 out of them, opponents scored over 100 points. That's not acceptable, including 2 games where they actually won. Their opponents scored over 100 points. This whole system that they expected to work, they expected to have Isaiah Thomas kind of take over the role and reins of Kyrie Irving, what he did, but it hasn't worked out. And the pieces around them really aren't working out. We can see this. Look at how Jay Crowder's playing. Look at how IT's playing. Look at how Kyle Korver, of all people, is playing. This whole team is struggling. And it apparently is all blown up in a players' meeting that they had the other day, which no one will talk about. The only things we've heard were slights about Kevin Love potentially missing games with a quote-unquote fake injury. I mean, let's get it real. The guy had an illness of some type during the Golden State game and missed a practice, and now they're calling him soft. If anything, he's the one Cavalier that's been consistently good, other than the defensive end. Don't get me wrong, I've been watching games, people. But this team is just all around, for lack of a better term, fablungin. And what fablungin means is messed up, not working, not okay, not right. And we see that. LeBron refused to comment on the meeting itself, which is generally a sign that something bad happened. Let's just take that as it is, people. And here we are, and Ty Lue is the one person at the helm of this that has to deal with it all. We heard a couple weeks ago how he mentioned that players need to get rid of their own agendas. Well, I'll play conspiracy theorist here and state that LeBron posted something yesterday about his 30,000 career point accolade, which I want to take a moment and say congratulations to LeBron. Unbelievable feat. You're going to not get number one on the all-time scoring list, but I see you at least getting to number two and breaking more records in this wonderful couple of years that you have left in the NBA, at least on top of the NBA, I should say. But congratulations nonetheless. Ty Lue is stuck dealing with all this. He's dealing with all these different players' agendas. Isaiah Thomas, in this offseason, wants to be able to get the money racks brought over to him and unload the dump train of money that he expects after coming back from a bad injury and playing on a team where they all suck right now. For lack of a better term, people, they've lost 7 out of these last 10 games, man. And they're not playing like a team. This is not the usual norm from a Cavaliers or a LeBron team where we see them kind of teeter around and play around with teams in the middle of the season and they wait to the playoffs. This is trouble. The Cavs would get bounced in the playoffs if they started today. I 100% believe that. And they're not even the top 4 teams in the East right now, other than their record saying otherwise. You know, I feel like in this scenario, people were talking about how they need to trade Kevin Love, they need to trade this, that, these, and those. They do need to make trades. But whatever they do, I think that this is the last season we see Ty Lue coaching the Cavaliers. Regardless of what happens, and regardless of any player moves that occur, Ty Lue's last season with the Cavaliers comes now. And it's unfortunate because he is a great coach. I've loved Ty Lue. He's been around the Celtics when he was an assistant coach, was an assistant with Rivers in LA as well. He's well-deserved of being a head coach. It's this team, though, and it's these quote-unquote hidden agendas and just everything around this team, this aura, this atmosphere. It's toxic, and it's not good for him, and it's not good for this team. It needs to be an even split from both sides. I don't think that he'll last long. I think that he'll take them to the playoffs, and they'll get bounced, and then they'll reassess. LeBron will leave. They should trade that Brooklyn pick, and they should start going all in on the full rebuild, and they should pray that Dan Gilbert hits another ace in the hole like he did with LeBron the first time, or hope that they at least can somehow acquire Zion when he comes out. You know, the Cavaliers are in trouble. End of story. Well, we're going to move on to one of the last 2 topics I have for you guys today on the live show, and that is Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard and the Spurs are reportedly having big differences nowadays. Kawhi is pissed off with the handling of his knee or injury diagnosis and the handling of the rehabilitation process and overall the handling of the injury itself, which I don't necessarily blame him because they brought him back. He played a couple games. He didn't look good. I shouldn't say he didn't look good, but he looked clearly not at 100%. And now here he is again, out and pissed off, rightfully so. And on top of this, they're saying that the Spurs' inability to attract and sign all NBA players has played an even bigger role in this whole mishmash mess that you call the Spurs as well. Well, the Spurs are a great team. They're led by one of the best coaches in the NBA. If anything, Greg Popovich is able to sit down with his players and have open, honest conversations about, 1, their roles, and 2, what they should do with this team, as shown with what he did with LaMarcus Aldridge this season. And look how Aldridge's played. He's played amazingly. He's turned his season around. You know, I love Kawhi Leonard, and I love him on the Spurs because that's where he was kind of cultivated, molded, and raised, I guess you could say, for lack of better terms. But the way they've handled this situation, if all is true, they're going to lose him. And if they do lose Kawhi Leonard, they should think about acting very quickly. But for my speculation, as an outsider looking in, they have one of 2 options. They can either, first off, try and make moves, pick up some big names at before the All-Star break and trade deadline, and try and at least show him they're making an effort, trying to make sure that he knows that he's wanted and that they really are all in about him being the all-star name and the name of the franchise, the player of the franchise, and bring people around him. Or Two, the less likely of the two, I personally think, is to trade Kawhi. And I say trade Kawhi, fully noting that the man just signed a giant free agent extension through 2020. He'll be a free agent then, but they need to move him for a couple of reasons. One, if you're going to surround a guy like Kawhi with big names, those are all going to be B-plus players, or potentially C-plus players, depending upon what it is. Their just game is elevated by who they're playing around. But why waste your money on signing mediocre or middle road players? You know what I mean? I don't mean mediocre. I mean middle road or like above average players to surround and supplement your superstar when you don't need, when you're going to get rid of the superstar and you know that he doesn't want to be there. Signing guys like Rudy Gay in the offseason was a good addition, but it's not a over-the-hump addition, nor is it really a 20-game-plus winning addition for them. You know, they can keep adding supplementary players, but it doesn't make sense. They need to move him. If they're going to move him at all, get him back healthy and then move him immediately. Move him when his trade value is at its peak, like the Celtics did with Isaiah, other than the injury that, you know, clearly dragged down his value. But Kawhi has shown even through this injury, he was able to play pretty freaking well for the Spurs and can do it for another team if they needed it. So I think that the Spurs are in a situation that's a little tricky, but they should move Kawhi if it comes down to it. And for the last story of the day, we're going to go into the ever continuing, every trade deadline, we hear the same freaking name, and that is DeAndre Jordan. So DeAndre's been linked to 3 teams. The Clippers. Well, no. He's been linked, traded from the Clippers. He's been linked to the Blazers, the Rockets, and the Cavaliers, of which I think the most interesting by far is the Rockets, and that came out of left field when Stephen A. reported that, I think it was maybe about a week ago on First Take. It just blew my mind. I was sitting there going like, whoa, okay, Houston's really trying to take a big swing and go after someone. Well, with the help of my buddy Jamar, we put together a list of potential trades and broke down the contract for you, the fans, to kind of understand it a little bit better. So DeAndre is signed for a 4-year, $87 million and $616,000 contract, which represents 19% of the Clippers' overall cap. So he has a 2018 player option, which he can pick up. But here's the kicker right here, literally. 15% trade kicker on his base salary, which is $22 million. And guess how much is guaranteed of that money? All of it. All of it. Sorry. And if that's the case, you know, their dead cap, the amount would remain on the team's cap whether he's traded or released or not, which means the dead cap is going to be $46 million on the Clippers no matter what happens. So any trade they do make, they've really got to shed a good amount of money and then get something in return. It's almost like you are for sure guaranteeing yourself picking up a really crummy contract on a player who really isn't worth it, along with picking up an asset. Usually that would be like not all NBA, I shouldn't say that, like an all-star level talent, maybe all-star reserve level talent, because that's what the Clippers are looking for, especially right now when they're kind of in the like middle ground of rebuild and not really type thing, especially with how they've been playing as of late. It's unbelievable and unprecedented. Trust me, as a guy from LA, I wasn't expecting them to play this well right now. Well, trade scenario 1. To make the money match up and everything involved with it, you have Kyle Korver under a 3-year, $7 million contract, Tristan Thompson's ridiculous 3-year, $16 million contract per year. These are per year statistics. Plus the Brooklyn pick that they acquired from the Celtics for DeAndre and a Clippers first or second rounder. Now, I don't really think that they get enough for DeAndre if I'm the Clippers. I mean, really, if I'm the Clippers, I'm not looking to take on Tristan Thompson, Kyle Korver, even if it means getting that Brooklyn pick. You know, they're a team that already has Blake Griffin and 3 small forwards under contract. The last thing you need is a logjam at any position, especially a position when you already have an all-star, especially if you're trading an all-star out. Doesn't make sense. Trade 2. With the Blazers, Mo Harkless at 3 years, $10 million. Ed Davis is 1 year and $6 million. And Yusuf Nurkic's $2.9 million deal under 1 year for DeAndre Jordan. And I assume that the Clippers would throw in a pick or something to make it even out, you know, in value at least. And if I'm the Blazers, given their position right now and how Damian Lillard requested a meeting, I am going to make a trade, and if it means I can get an all-star type center to change up the system, even though Nurkic has played very well, I'm going in on DeAndre, especially with that trade. They have a log jam at positions, and unfortunately for the Blazers, they're similar to, and I continuously make this comparison, the 2000s Hawks, where they're a second-round team, but people know they aren't legitimate contenders. They are pretenders, playoff entrance pretenders. And now they're in a situation where we need to make a deal. We have to make a deal at this point. Damian Lillard is not getting younger, and he at one point will just get fed up and want to leave. So the Blazers need to make a push for a deal, and if they get an offer like this, if I'm the Clippers, I take it on the chance knowing that I could re-sign Nurkic, potentially have a big man there immediately. I have a backup in Ed Davis, who's a very good backup for Blake Griffin, might I add you, and Mo Harkless, who's a very good proven small forward and on a decent deal. All those contracts add up for a good price, 3 for 1 basically, and you're getting very good value in return if you're the Clippers. And mostly, I just don't want him to be traded to the Cavs, so let's just go with that. So trade 3, and the last one, the Rockets and the Clippers. Yes, I know, the one trade that everyone's wanted here. Ryan Anderson's 3-year, $19 million average, Trevor Ariza's 1 year, $7 million, and Clint Capella's 1 year, $2.3 for DeAndre Jordan and Jawan Evans, who's on a 3-year, $815,000 deal. So it makes sense for the Rockets in the sense that you get to shed the salary of Ryan Anderson, and you end up moving your big man Clint Capella, who, you know, has the easiest job in the NBA, as stated by Kevin Durant, which is 1,000% true. I mean, if I was the guy who's taking layup line drills basically in mid-game, I'd be about it. And then on the other end of it, for the Clippers, why would I want Ryan Anderson, Trevor Ariza, and Clint Capella? The only one of those bunch that I would potentially want is Clint Capella, and the system that the Clippers are running, he probably wouldn't be as successful because they need to have spacers in order for Clint, who is an undersized big man, to play above what he does and above his role. You know, I like the ideas. I like all these trade scenarios. Jamar did a great job helping me put this all together. But man, the best scenario out of all these three would be the Blazers. And in reality, I'd like to see DeAndre end up with the Blazers. I think that would be a great destination for him. He would immediately change the culture of Portland. He would get the energy in the building back. I don't know how to describe it. He would just be a return of liveliness to that arena, which, don't get me wrong, is very lively as is, one of the loudest arenas in the NBA, but still is lacking something. They need something else. They need fresh blood. They need an all-star. They need something. Because if they're going to keep Damian Lillard long-term and keep that pair of CJ and him, they need something. They need a big change. They would end up with a very good starting five who could contend potentially in the West. They'd at least be a lot more athletic and able to run with these teams like Houston and Golden State a lot better than some of these older guys would. And man, I just want this trade to happen already. I've been getting sick and tired of hearing about DeAndre Jordan trades for the last 2, 3, 4 years. And the last time we heard a good amount of news about him was when he was stuck in his house being held hostage by the Clippers to re-sign that extension after the Dallas misdeal, whatever that was. It's weird. Either way, DeAndre is already on his way out and has been already like 1 foot in out the door with the Clippers for the last couple of years. The least they can do is trade him to a destination where he will play well. They are needing of a guy like him, and he can become something bigger than what he is with the Clippers. So for that, guys and ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you for tuning in today. It's been a blessing. It's been wonderful being back in the studio. I've missed it so very much, and we'll be putting out more content every week at 2 p.m. Eastern on WLXU 93.9 FM. And don't forget to check out Alexander Himes on YouTube and Alexander Himes on Facebook and Himes World on Instagram for exclusive behind-the-sneak features from the show, extra bits, highlight videos, and anything you could want, especially the full shows online. Thanks again, everyone, and we'll see you next week.